unmute myself.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to our XP Property Expose live at 5 p.m. every week. And without fail, we have a jam-packed episode today. So without further ado, we'll dive straight into the agenda. We're starting off by giving you a bit of an update on our business box. You might have remembered our scheme in Spencerrwood and our tips to letting that space. We've pulled together and shared our investor CRM. So this is our database that we keep for our list of investors. And we've got some hot tips on how we categorize them and make sure that we can fund deals. This year, we funded some of the biggest deals that we've ever funded, and we'll be sharing the back end success to that. Pre-commencement planning condition tips. Ben will be sharing what tips you need to be integrating into planning so you can get on site sooner, which is obviously cost effective and also shortens the project. Offer pipeline and follow-up. I've actually been coined in a developers group in London, the follow-up king. So I'll be sharing on how we build a pipeline and secure something every 4 weeks and get an 18% discount on average on guide price across our projects. You can probably notice the husky voice, a little bit of flu, but we had the XP Property, XP Surveys and Central Suites Christmas party. So we'll be sharing some fun about that. And there was 2 prizes of the event, and you will be hearing about what prize I managed to pick up. We have a new investment opportunity open, which we will be sharing. It's a development in Oxfordshire. XP, so myself and Ben and also Christina, our marketing lady, visited the Aura Studios. We'll be sharing what we got up to. And we are fortunate to be hosting some really close budding property investors and developers on our table at the Property Investor Awards. And we've got a burning question that we'll be getting to last, so make sure you stay tuned. And for podcast listeners, it's the 1st of December. Kicking off, Ben, do you want to share about Spencerrwood and our offices?
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of basement work going on in my house, so hopefully this drilling really isn't like too loud for people. And Jack, you might have to take over on some of these. But anyway, we now have 6 out of our 7 offices let, which is amazing. We've just got the 6th tenant into heads of terms, which is great. I mean, it's taken us a long time to fill these spaces. Those of you that are in the office market space, since COVID, things have obviously been really, really difficult. So, we're really happy to see people wanting, to get back to offices, to build their teams, to grow their businesses in sort of grade A office space like this. This is the business box in Reading. So it's just south of Reading, about 5 minutes south of Junction 11. It's a development where we've got 7 residential flats at the front of the site, and we extended and converted part of the office at the front into resi. And we've maintained this commercial office space to the rear, which it looks really great. If we had a need for an office south of the M4, we'd absolutely be all over it. But unfortunately, it's the wrong side of Reading for all the Henley-on-Thames people. But we've got 6 of the 7 offices taken over. Jack, do you want to talk about how we've been?
Yeah, so just wanted to sort of share like how proactive we have been to get these office spaces let. And we, every commercial office owner might instruct a commercial agent to let their space, and they do the same things: Estate Gazette, Rightmove, Zoopla, put your space onto market. But out of the 7 offices that are available, we have been working with a commercial agent to let the spaces. And out of the 7, we have let ourselves 6. And we actually had a tenant turnaround. So we've actually let 7 offices in the space of probably a year and a half. And we've sort of been competing with the commercial agent. Now, you ask yourself why, because they're supposed to be the commercial agent with the skills, the team, the expertise, the logins, the services that they provide. But again, we have filled this space by being really sheerly proactive, being everywhere we can. You've probably seen on the screen there, Instant Offices. That's by far been our most successful advertising platform. It's a bit like Rightmove. We are on Rightmove, but we 100% have filled most of our office spaces via those requirements through Instant Offices. So if you've got office spaces and you're not on Instant Offices, I'd highly recommend you take it upon yourself to get put on that portal. Second to that, I have a diary reminder every 2 p.m. every Monday to post this office space in the local Facebook group. there's a community group in Spencerrwood, and every Monday I post this in there. Sometimes we don't get any inquiries off the back of those posts, but we quite frequently get people that then go onto the Rightmove link or then go onto the Instant Offices link, and it's just another touch point. Equally, we've got a board outside the site. We had hoarding throughout the delivery. We sent out flyers and newsletters locally to that postcode. And quite frankly, quite a lot of the people that got the flyers also walked past the site, also saw us online, and then made the inquiry. So it's all about, you hear the 7 touch points of a sale or whatever it may be. I'm not too bothered about how many touch points we've got, just making sure that we're doing everything and anything within our power to be everywhere, and making sure you're following up on that, on those leads. So don't just give it to a commercial agent and expect them to be proactive. They might be, but the good chance is they're not doing everything and anything that you could be doing. And we've really had to work hard for this. And our investor partners are super pleased that we are, getting in amongst it and really getting, a broad and sort of like deep understanding of the market, and getting, old school lettering, modern methods of putting it on Facebook, Instant Offices, because the commercial agent hasn't put us on there, put ourselves on Rightmove. So we've really been getting anywhere and everywhere we can. And as a result, we're now letting the 6th space. To give you a bit of an idea, the 5th space was like break even. So it's really good for us to get to this point. And I have a feeling that the final space, which is actually one of the nicest spaces, should be going very soon as well. So yeah, just a top tip, Instant Offices, check it out. If you've got any office spaces to let, it's a really good place to be. Cool. So moving on to Investor CRM, I was actually on a mentee call with one of my mentees earlier today, and we've been through the process of finding deals. We've been through the process of setting his strategy on a page and building his goals and working backwards. I saw a really cool quote the other day: "Don't start until it's finished," which is a phrase of like making sure that you work backwards from your exact goals. So my mentee knows what he wants. He's got a 5-year plan. And he wants to grow his business. And hopefully he's listening, because he's done a great job of putting that together. But I was talking through with him about how we fund deals. And if you're new to this channel, we are a development and an investment company. So we buy stuff to hold and we buy stuff to sell. And we partner with investors to buy sites, take it through the planning process. They're the money side of things. We're the delivery side of things. And we split the proposed upside, downside, whatever it may be. Fortunately, touch wood, we haven't been in the downside part just yet. But this is how we sort of compile that list with investors. So if any of our investors are listening, sorry, you are on a list, and it enables us to make sure that we direct the right schemes to the right people. We're fortunate that we've been building this list, this CRM, for about 6 years now. So we're well, probably longer than that if you actually look at mine and Ben's independent work before we started working together. So our investor list is about 150 high net worth individuals that we work with. Obviously, I can't keep all that information in my head. Ben might, but I'm not smart enough to be able to remember that, people's names, people's contact details, whether they're in funds, invested with us already. Obviously, that's an easy one to remember. But if maybe we had a chat with them, they're not in funds. Also, what their preference is. Some people will only do first charge debt. Some people will only do second charge debt. Some people will only do a fixed loan. Some people will do only JVs and profit shares. So all of this information needs to be down on a sheet. The way that we orchestrate that is their name, their email address, their phone number, the available funds that they have at that time when you last spoke to them, and make a note when you speak to them, the notes on that individual. And then what we do is a really smart way of categorizing the investors so that we're spending our time well. And what I mean by that is we fill in the amount of investments that they've put with us before, the amount that they've invested to date, so the size of the loans altogether, and then any live investments. What this spreadsheet then does is categorizes the most and the highest investment to date to the top. So we know that if we spend our time from top to bottom, we're contacting people that we've most likely worked with several times before. Equally, that we've got the amount there. So for an example, we might have done one loan with an investor that invested £1.2 million, but 5 loans with an investor that invested 200 grand. So it categorizes the sort of frequency and the touch points and the working relationship, so that it improves our time going through the 150 on the list, because there's only so much time that we can obviously put into this. And normally by the time we get to the bottom, we got an investor partner and we're all happy, and we all jump into the scheme and push it forward. And the way that we sort of log how we send this out is we have a PS and then a yes or a no sort of coding. So as you'll see on the right there for video viewers, but I will explain it on the podcast, is we have a project that's up and coming, and we're actually talking about a project later today. We put the amount that's required. So as an example, I've put £450,000 there. And then we will put a P next to someone's name if we think they're a potential investor. So that could be someone that's in a good location for the scheme. It fits their appetite for, whatever security is on offer, and they're potentially in funds. We then, once we sent the project out to them, which is our investment snapshot, and if you want to see that, that's probably another day for another slide, and we have talked to you about it before, but comment in the comment section, investor snapshot. But we send them that deck to sort of whet their appetite, get them an understanding of what the deal is. We keep it very brief and very to the point so that they are either interested or not interested. So the details that go into that is overview, address, type of project, investment size, please contact us. And then once that's gone out, we put an S next to that name. So they were a potential, and now we've sent them the details. And then once we go through the progression process, they're either a yes or a no, and we'll make comments why. This is really imperative to make sure you're funding deals. We've managed to fund two of our largest deals this year, one at £1 million and one at £1.2 million. And I think the only way that we've been able to do that is to not keep this information in our head and to have it on a CRM system, rely on the data, rely on the tech. You can also use platforms like HubSpot. I'm a bit old school. I like doing it on Excel, and I like feeding information to and from different Excels. But we can share this screenshot if you would like it. If you're listening on the podcast, do reach out and we can share the sort of format and how that looks so that you can build your own one. Anything to add, Ben?
Yeah, I now look like I'm an airplane pilot. Can you hear me okay? Is it less drilly in the background?
Yeah, it's less drilly, yeah.
Good, excellent. Yeah, I just wanted to say, if you want to get on that list, if you've got investments and finance that you want to deploy into the UK real estate market, we've raised £14 million worth of equity in the last 6 years. We've raised about £41 million in debt across the schemes that we've worked on. We've won various awards. We do have a pipeline of various projects coming up. So if you've got 200 to £2 million that you want to deploy and discuss opportunities with an award-winning developer like us, then get in touch. The email address is info@xpproperty.co.uk. Happy to send you our sort of track record document and our full details about previous history and what we're looking for and what we're investing in and developing in over the next couple of years. So yeah, if you want to get on our investor list, do let us know. Nothing else to really add than that.
Cool.
Shameless plug. Number 3. So I'm going to be talking about a few things around planning conditions and planning permissions. So in our boardroom last week, we were discussing the distressing and very frustrating planning process that most developers I speak to are very, very fed up with. There was one guy that had 36 planning conditions on his application for like a 9-unit scheme, which is just outrageous. And we then were talking about ways in which we like to discuss with planning authorities about sort of, they may well want to put 36 planning conditions together, but there's a few things that you can do to kind of ease the pain of that, or not have 36 in the first place. And I just wanted to talk through a couple of tips that maybe you do or maybe you don't know about. So first one being that you can actually request draft conditions from your planning officer. So if you've got an open dialogue with the planning officer and you've been back and forth, you've amended drawings, we've got this with our Marlowe scheme at the moment, whereby we've been asked to make various changes to the scheme, but we're at the point now where we've made all the changes. We've basically said, look, we've made all the changes you've asked for. Are you going to be recommending this for approval? They say, yes, we're going to be recommending it for approval. Okay, well, I've emailed them back and said, look, I want to see the draft planning conditions that you are going to put on the decision notice. And they are obliged to send that over to you. So when they do, there's a few things that you can do to sort of look through that list and maybe change things that suit in your favor a little bit more. And those things are stuff like this. So you can try and push them to reword certain conditions so that they're more in your favor. And what do I mean by that? And if you've seen planning decision notices, this is an image on the right hand side of a planning decision notice. You'll often see that at the beginning sentence of a condition, they will say things like, before commencement of works on site, do X, Y, and Z, or submit materials to be signed off by the planning authority. Now, if those materials are the external facade, or you're doing an extension to the front, or you're changing the roof and you're putting new tiles on, for example, if it's a conversion that you're doing a lot of internal works, and then those external works are one of the last things that you're doing, why do you want to have a planning condition that is pre-commencement when there's so much work that you can be doing on site internally before you get round to actually dealing with the external works? So you can ask for things like, instead of it being pre-commencement, you get them to change the wording to say before above ground works or before external works commence. So instead of their default will be, before you start works on this development, I want to see all materials being signed off. I want to see your full sustainability strategy, all details of your cycle storage and things like that. Or cycle storage, for example, you may not need to install that until the very last thing. So really what you want to change the wording to on that is before occupation. Because you can do all of the works that you want. You could get into the sales process as long as you've got the cycle storage on site installed before your new buyers move in. You've not had to submit documents and wait 8 to 10 weeks for the planning officer to discharge that planning condition. So you do have a bit of power here. First one, just to repeat, ask for the draft conditions that the planning officer is going to put on the decision notice, and then try and reword planning conditions to suit the timeframes that you're under. So if it's a basement dig, for example, but you've still got works that you want to be commencing at ground floor, first floor, second floor level, you can ask for the materials to be discharged before the above ground work start rather than the basement. So you've got a clear runway then to do 6 months of basement dig before you actually have to sign off conditions that stop you or should stop you from starting works at that point. So I hope that's useful. And then the other things that we're now starting to do is actually submitting maybe more documentation that you need at planning stage, rather than waiting for it to become a planning condition that you then have to wait 8 weeks to discharge. Key things under this option are things like construction traffic management plans. We're seeing them a lot lately in planning applications, where planning officers are pretty much requesting them on every single scheme. So for £1,200, why not submit a construction traffic management plan as part of your main application, so that it doesn't become a pre-commencement condition, slowing you down once you purchase the site and you've got planning approval? Because the last thing we want to do is to have to hold finance on a site that we can't start work on for 8 weeks because we've got to discharge these conditions. So just hopefully that's been useful to people. I guess, like always, when you talk to me about sort of the planning process and consultants, it's about pushing back and actually trying to negotiate things in your favor, rather than just accepting the status quo and the very first thing that they throw to you. So hopefully that's useful.
Yeah, I think just go back on that, Ben. I think that's such valuable information, and to give you what that would mean in real terms. Obviously, this is quite, technically working in the planning process. When this actual site that Ben's referring to, on acquisition, our finance costs are probably costing us 10 grand a month. We're not paying that every month because it's right up interest. So saving 4 weeks is a game changer. And then towards the end of the site, so when you're coming towards the end, whether Ben mentioned, cycle storage before you sell a unit or whatever it may be, we're carrying even more debt and development finance, and you might even be costing 20 grand a month. So it's key to, get that all in place from the outset, and really, really insightful to sort of push back on those things.
Yeah, I think you touched on something there actually that a lot of people overlook. And you've said that on acquisition you might be paying £10,000 because that's effectively the debt that you're holding is merely the purchasing debt. So if you're taking a 60% loan with your bank lender on £1 million purchase, but you're spending £2 million in developing it, by the time you've got 12 months down the line, you're £3 million in debt on that site, and that £10,000 a month is costing you £30,000 a month. And if you've wasted 4 to 8 weeks at the front end, you're delaying things 4 to 8 weeks at the tail end where you're holding that extra cost. So speed is so critical with property developments, and I think it's overlooked too much.
Very good, very good. Ben, you might need to screen share if you could. So I mentioned at the beginning of the call how I got coined the follow-up king. That is not a self-proclaimed title. I much prefer other names that I have got. But the long and short of it is just a really,
king. Right.
yeah. I like I like Quaddy J as per in the office. So this is just to really drill home. If you have ever struggled finding deals, I can guarantee it's because you're not putting the activity in or you're not following up enough. So we actually did an exercise in our business to see on average how much of a reduction we've paid on all the sites. We're up to about 70 properties and sites that we've bought in the last 6 years. And our average discount against guide price is 18%. Now, that isn't just purely from a negotiation standpoint. That's follow-up, making sure that as soon as that buyer that beat you in the bidding process pulls out, you are the first and foremost person and the only person that the agent or the seller thinks of. And this week, this week we managed to close a deal completely off the basis of that, and it's complete credit to Patrick and putting the time into securing this. So this is a Central Suites project that we're buying and flipping. Everyone says to me it's really difficult to make flips work nowadays, and I actually disagree. You need to be buying it right, and you need to be building it out for the right value, and you need to be obviously turning it around pretty quickly. We stress that time is critical. So these projects we can get in and out within 12 months. We don't target a 20% on GDV. We actually target in excess of 10% on GDV, but we tend to make anywhere between sort of 20 to 40% back on our cash, which is the more important metric. So this particular scheme went on the market, dilapidated house, needs a lot of attention. The person that's living in it is going into a care home. They put it on the market, marginally overpriced. I would have thought of £440,000. This is near Reading, so very close to where we're based. And the long and short of it is we put an offer forward and we were outbid by coincidentally a property outfit that's run by a church. And that just, I knew that they probably weren't that commercially minded and there was a very strong chance this deal would fall through. So I said to Pat, keep on their case and make sure that as and when that deal comes potentially back to market, it doesn't go on market and we agree a sale price. The reason that we managed to get a massively significant discounted price is there's issues with the roof, and we use that to sort of crowbar our negotiations. But anyway, Patrick kept on the case. It did come back to go to open market. We worked the price and worked it down, and we've managed to secure this for £345,000, which is a 22% reduction on guide price. Now, that price difference is basically our margin once we've renovated this and selling it. So you could argue that we could probably do a very light refurb and sell it, but we will do a good refurb and hopefully get GDV values of about 650. But the real point is make sure in your pipeline you have a follow-up process. Out of the 70 sites, we've done some analysis that we have secured. I think it's only 8 sites we didn't secure on the second time round or third time round or within our follow-up process. So if we didn't have a follow-up process in our business, we could have only done 8 deals to date in the last 6 years. So make sure you have a follow-up process within your sort of offer process. It's basically building a CRM or having a Kanban style board on whatever you use, mondays.com or Asana, and making sure you're following up with people. You've already done the hard work. You've already reviewed it. You've already analyzed the project and put it through a stack. So be efficient with your time and follow up before you look at new stuff. Ben, you're on mute.
Good stuff. Yeah, I'm off now. Should be. Cool. XP Christmas party. I'm sure this, silly season for everyone. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of late nights to come, but we had a real blast last night. Our office manager, Christina, organised a murder mystery. I look like something out of YMCA. What's that? What's the thingy called?
I don't know what it's called.
Somebody messaged down below whatever it is, but yeah, we were all made to wear silly outfits, 1920s style, flapper type thing. But yeah, we had a great time at Hotel Divan in Henley. And there's not much else that I wanted to say about that. What did you want to say?
Yeah, I just think because obviously we've got business owners and property people on here, I think it's really good for team bonding and building that sort of friendly banter and letting people connect outside of work. In a fast-growing company, you do have new starters, and it's nice for people to meet everyone outside of the work environment, get a feel for what they're like, and obviously we also did a Secret Santa, which is a good fun on everyone's nuances in the office and a good opportunity to get them a fun present. I will be sharing that I did pick up a prize for the evening as the best actress, which I'm over the moon to have picked up. I won't be furthering my career or sharing any more of my performance because it was quite explicit, I would say.
Village people, that's what I was thinking of. Lots of people looking like they're out of the Village People. But yeah, really good fun. And there's numerous awards and more Christmas dues that we're going to be expecting over the next couple of weeks. So looking forward to that. Anyway, on to more interesting things. A new investment opportunity for an asset that we've got in legals at the moment. This is currently a doctor's surgery that we will be converting under Class MA permitted development rights, and holding in terms of our portfolio. So holding this for sort of the longer term. Jack, do you want to run through the sort of figures and what we're looking for on this?
Yeah, cool. So we're keeping fairly open-minded on this particular project because for us, it's quite a low purchase price. So our all-in cost to acquire the site and get going on build is about £450,000. So we've got two options without trying to complicate things. Is we can acquire the site directly through private finance with an investor, or we can leverage it up with a short-term type bridging product that will then convert into a development facility, which reduces that investment down to potentially just £270,000 to do this scheme end to end. So Ben mentioned at the beginning, if you would like to hear more opportunities like these, we'd love to set up a face-to-face or a Zoom call to run through the details. I think that's the best place to do it. But what you also might be begging the question is why we are doing a smaller deal below our threshold of sort of 2 million GDV exit, and why we're looking to hold stuff. And Ben and I are extremely keen to build our rental portfolio so that our rental portfolio sustains our overheads as a business. Everyone knows that the property development is a lumpy game when you're buying sites and selling stuff. There's chunks going in and out, and it's very difficult to cash flow. So to break the back of that, we have been building our property portfolio. We've kept some of our developments, and this particular scheme is rife for a really strong rental yield. And the way that we are achieving that is, Ben mentioned, we're going for Class MA PD to 3 very large apartments. And then we will be converting those 3 large apartments to 4-bed cluster flats, HMOs. So it's 12 bedrooms. And obviously you can see the sort of purchase price that we're getting in at. The yield is super strong. So the position for the investor partner on this particular one, because it's difficult to do a profit share if we hold, is the investor comes on a fixed coupon, and we can explain the details around security, and what sort of returns you can expect. And then on refinance, once the project's finished, fully let, and we refinance it out at the back end, we'll pay the investor back their principal investment and the coupon as well.
Nice. Actually, where can people get in contact with us if they want to?
So info@xbproperty.co.uk, or reach out to Ben and I on any of our social channels. But hopefully, if you connect, we'll connect anyway. And if it's not this scheme, and you're purely, I was actually speaking on a call with an investor today, and they're purely focused on profit share deals because they've got a property background and they want to roll their sleeves up and get stuck in and live and breathe the real life property development. So it was great to catch up with that particular investor. But if it's something else, please do put the inquiry over, because we'd love to sort of onboard you and, like Ben said earlier, get you on that list so that you can be at the forefront of receiving those projects. And we don't necessarily always have the opportunity to share them, on market, I'll call it. Quite frequently, a lot of our deals are actually, funded before we even release them or put them out, from historic investors sort of chasing us down for more stock.
Nice. Cool. So Jack and I were in the Aura office in Clapham this week. Aura have invested and XP really in our video and audio and sort of lighting game. We've got a sort of studio set up in the Aura boardroom, which you can see in the photo. And we had literally a probably 5-6 hour kind of session of just pure sort of content and, Q&As, which I'm going to touch on in a little bit. But I just wanted to point out our YouTube channel. So if you're obviously watching on YouTube, that's great. But head over to Aura Architecture for the Aura home transformations and a bit of education around that process, and also XP Property, where you'll find some site tours, lots of Q&As with Jack and I, Jack's hacks, which if you've not seen some of those, there's some absolute blinders coming out, which we recorded on Tuesday. So the top sort of 7 apps and programs that makes our business, and Jack in particular, sort of super efficient. Looking at sort of Scannable and Loom and using WhatsApp really efficiently, and Google Drive, Zero for accounting, stuff like that. We had a really good sort of Q&A session. So some of the key questions that we always get asked by investors, by professionals. So things like, how does property investment work? What security is offered with our property investments? What type of returns should you expect? How we got started in property investment? How do you get started in property investment? And yeah, we're excited to get all of that content chopped up, launched across our various social media platforms, launched in long form on our YouTube channels as well. So stay tuned over the next couple of months and make sure you subscribe over there so you can be the first to kind of see it as it comes out.
I was going to say I'm quite excited for these clips of interview style to be released, Ben, because quite a lot of the questions I wasn't aware of that were coming before, and vice versa. So they're very sort of raw in the sense that we haven't prepped. I've asked Ben a question, he's answered it there on the spot, and vice versa. So definitely make sure you head over to our YouTube channels and subscribe so that you get a notification when those are released.
Yeah, nice. And there's a couple of questions coming in from Coyote. Can doctor's surgery be changed to C3 under PDR? Yes. So GP surgeries are now allocated in use class E. It's one of those sneaky ones that used to be D1 use, I believe, and had no PDR rights, whereas the latest government changes included doctor's surgeries within class E. So that is now available to you. Queue everyone on Rightmove looking for doctor's surgeries to convert. But yeah, that is an option for you.
As long as they've got a follow-up process, they can get looking.
Get decent offers. Anything else you wanted to say about the studio tour?
No, all good.
Yeah, I guess likewise with all of these sessions, if there is a question that you want us to answer, then we can absolutely do that. If you make a comment down below, just like Cody did, thank you very much, and we can answer it either on the live session today, or crack on and answer it next week if it's you need more a bit of an elaborate response for us to sort of think about and plan for.
So the Property Investor Awards, Ben. Last year we were very thankfully sat on the edge of our seats and managed to pick up an award for Deal of the Year.
There we are.
This year we've got a year off from the stresses of wondering what's going to happen and turn out on the night, and we can relax. We're hosting some other developers, some other property investors, and actually some of our investors at our table. So we just wanted to say, if anyone's heading over there tomorrow, do come and say hi, especially if we haven't met you before, because if we haven't met you before, we'll probably be hunting you down. But we'd love to meet some of our listeners that we haven't met before. So please do come over and say hello and say that you watched this episode and that you were instructed to come and find us.
Yeah, nice. There's lots of familiar faces in this group. We actually had a video call with Daryl Norkett from Shawbrook earlier today, so it'd be good to catch up with him yesterday. Joanne is in our boardroom group, and I know that she's up for 2 or 3 awards again this year. She's smashing it. Last year, I think she won 2 awards, if not more. And yeah, lots of quality property investors and property developers up on that stage. So we'd love to speak to you tomorrow if you're around.
So I mentioned earlier, any Q&A that we get, we do like to follow up on. We will try and answer every single question that we get asked, so don't be shy. Drop them in the comments below. But last week, one of our mentees asked we've got an XP community group on the WhatsApp channel, and they asked quite a long-winded question, but to break it down, he wanted to know how he can push and manage his consultants better. So mainly speaking, architects, engineers and interior designers. He had a question about the design and access statements. He's finding it really painful to get them to be as detailed as maybe he wants them to be. And writing a design and access statement actually is there's a great great technique or precision and sort of elaboration that needs to go into a design and access statement. So you really have to try and sell the story of how you've come from an existing property or an existing piece of land, and you've gone through the design process to get to where you've got. We've had occasions where we've seen before where we've submitted an application and the planning officer wants to see how that design has come together. We've not just gone from A to B and suddenly you've got this new development of 9 flats or a new massing at airspace level, for example. They want to see that you've analysed the context of the surroundings, the orientation of the properties, the massing compared to kind of neighbouring properties, and that storytelling is really, really important with the design and access statement. In terms of how you can manage your architects, I've got to be honest, it's often comes down to the people that are really good at writing a good DAS are people that do have the time to spend doing so. And more often than not, if there's not enough time in the fee that they're given to do the work, you're not going to get a really good output that's really considered and the appropriate time has been spent. So I think if you're going into working with a new architect, a design and access statement is really important. Ask to see an example of one before actually instructing them, because you can tell a lot from the level of information and the time spent sort of analyzing context and the design and how they pull together the whole picture. Because when I'm reviewing development sites, I went to see a big site in Croydon this morning, which is the potential for probably 30 to 40 flats, and I was looking at the previous planning history, and the first thing I will go to is the design and access statement. There shouldn't be any need to look at individual drawings, site plans, elevations, floor plans individually, because the whole story should be within the design and access statement. So that's the first place I will always go to get a really quick sense of the whole scheme and how it comes together. And there was a stark contrast between the most recent planning application that was approved and the one that was approved, the one that was submitted in 2017. 2017 application was phenomenal. It had to be split down into 3 different sections to be uploaded into the portal because it was so robust and so so full of drawing sketches. It showed you the clear design process that they'd gone through. And then the second one, which was rejected, was just it was a 4-page document, mostly text, no real kind of visual understanding of how they got to the design itself. And surprise, surprise, it was rejected. In terms of wider ways of managing your consultants, I think you just need to be on top of them, give them very clear directions and timelines. I think leaving things open-ended and asking them the question of when can you get this to us by is not the right way forward. You should be saying, I need this done by next Friday, or I want to see a draft next Monday to review. Let's have a video call for half an hour, see progress, and just keeping on top of them from that perspective. But I think the sort of I can understand where this person is coming from, because you are so heavily involved in the project. That architect or designer has probably got 6 other projects that they're working on, whereas you are fully engaged in that one project. So you're going to know every single nuance about it. You're going to know the wider picture about kind of the development angle as well, not just the design piece. So yes, I think fundamentally it's on you. You are going to have to be the one driving that, and if you want changes within your DAS and you have to work with them for 3 or 4 iterations to get what you want, then that's what you're going to have to do. But at the start, I would definitely highly recommend getting examples of the design and access statement from your architect before instructing them.
One thing just to add on that, because before I met Ben and was in partnership with Ben, I struggled to get my head around how we would take all this risk buying a site and lean on planning consultants and architects and their experience to take your risk and potentially fail at getting consent, and their fee is still paid and they still walk away. With maybe a bit of a dent in their ego, but they haven't lost the shirt off their back. So a question I frequently would ask. So we've got a project which is a grade 2 listed mixed use building in Central Suites, and we've got a specialist heritage architects working on it. And it's sometimes good to just say, look, if you bought this for X and you were taking all this risk with it, what would you do? And it just sort of changes their perspective on how that they approach the scheme and the risk of the scheme. And I think that's a really sort of key bit of information, that if your planning consultant is being, a bit sensitive around something, you can outline the commercial side of things so they can see that point too.
Nice. Very good. I mean, I think on that note, the drilling has just started in the background. I don't know if you can hear that again, but it's very, very loud.
I mean, most builders go home at like 3 PM to the pub, I think. I don't know.
On a Friday. Yeah, I'm actually
Yeah.
quite lucky that they're still here. But anyway, thank you very much for joining this week. Like we've said, if you've got any questions that you want us to answer, do drop them below. Thank you to KOD for his question. And we'll see you next week at 5 PM on Friday.
Thanks, everyone.